Kyle here, continuing on with training tracks. We're going to be talking about personality colors. And so here's what I want you to do before we continue on and explain the results of your personality survey. I want you to stop, all right? And make sure you have already taken your personality survey. There's a totally separate video to explain how and all that, but I don't want you to hear the results until you've taken a personality survey, because it could skew the results based on whatever color you prefer you want, rather than who you really are. So stop and take your personality survey before we continue on. All right, let's talk about blues. I am so glad you're here. This is probably your first or second strong color based on your personality survey. So blues, I am so glad you're here. Welcome. All right, let's talk about you. You are kind of described as the golden retriever. Here's what that means. It means you're loyal, you're adaptive. You are full of compassion. You have a strong sense of justice. So blues have this strong righteousness and sense of justice that if someone is being mistreated, you notice that sooner than the other colors. You are very adaptable and loyal, just like a golden retriever, and you are very well liked. Very few people doesn't get along with the blue. All the other colors get along with the blue, but blues, you have a motto, you have a kind of a phrase that you would say, and it's basically, we need to include everyone. You are that connector, that natural networker, and saying, hey, can we all get along? Can we all make sure everyone has a voice? When you're in a group setting, you want to make sure you know people. So, oh, hey, can we just go around and kind of say everyone's name? Because you really genuinely want to connect with other people, which is great. So your emotional needs are quiet and peace. You like just chatting one-on-one and sipping some coffee and all that. You don't have to go to a big party. You don't have to be on the stage. Your emotional needs are also feeling a sense of worth, as in you matter, that people care for you and you care for others. You don't really want stress. So if there's lots of stuff to do or there's lots of drama that stresses you out, that really soaks up your emotional energy, if you will. And then respect. So here's what's interesting. Every color wants to be respected. For blues, you want to give respect as much as you receive it. So sometimes blues get taken advantage of because they genuinely respect and are connected and present, all right, with people, but the other colors aren't always connected or present with them. So blues tend to get walked on a lot more than the other colors. So think about this. There's a lot of emotional energy that is spent trying to connect and making sure other people feel welcomed and safe and enjoyed, and you actually like being with them. So think about Legos. If you've ever had Legos and you connect with 8 Legos, about 6 to 8 Legos in a big stack here, what happens when you connect that 9th one? It falls off because the connection's just not strong enough. And so blues, you just need to be aware, you're probably not going to be the life of the party. You're probably not going to be the most popular person, but you're going to have really strong, deep friendships, but not a lot of them. Probably you have 8 people in your life where you have the emotional capacity to keep fulfilling and sustaining. But after that, Legos start dropping off, just like you just don't have the emotional capacity to keep that many friends around. And that's okay. You don't have to have all these friends, but blues, they really need to have a few close friends. So some of the popular careers with blues are diplomats, teachers, pastors, doctors, counselors. Even you're pretty good at research, particularly when it comes to people. So market researcher is really good. Why do people do this? Blues instinctively know how to do that kind of stuff. And then how to speak to blues and how blues speak. So if you're not a blue, okay, here's what you need to know if you're going to speak to a blue. Blues are storytellers. They like to tell stories. They like, hey, I remember this one time, and they'll get to a point, but they're sharing about how they got that. They're sharing about the schedule. They're also sharing about the feelings that they have in order to get to that point. Eventually they'll get to it, but it's about the experience of us sharing a conversation together. That's what blues love. They're very present. They're very attentive. They love eye contact. If you don't give blues eye contact, you're not showing them respect, even if you're in the process of doing something, right? So make sure you give blues eye contact in that. And expect everyone to be genuine. Blues genuinely try to be open and honest and genuine to everyone else The problem is they wrongly expect everyone else is going to be just as genuine to them, and that's just not always the case. Like I said, blues get walked on a lot. They avoid criticism and conflict because that possibly could hurt that other person. So they actually avoid those kind of things. Now in the church, all right, and in the population, there's done some studies, and I don't know necessarily how they got these numbers, but what they found is 15 to 20% of the population are blues. That's the dominant personality colors of blue. But in the church, it's 40 to 45%. Why the discrepancy? Well, if you think about the church and the experience of the church, it's very emotional. It's very expressive. It's very community oriented. Love one another. Let's worship together. Let's be in a small group where we can talk and share our feelings. Blues, they thrive in that environment. The other colors, not so much. They would prefer different aspects of that. So that's why there's a lot of blues in the church. That's good and bad, because we'll talk about what are some possible things when it comes to some conflict with blues. So here's blues. Again, I'm not trying to judge you, all right? I'm simply kind of sharing some weak points so you can be aware of this. Particularly, you can see this in blues who don't understand how they operate in conflict. So here's what I mean. Their conflict style blues is to bury. They'll do everything they can to bury it, to avoid, to not deal with any conflict, even if that means they're suffering. So a good example of what a blue is, it's a volcano. They're stuffing that criticism or that meanness down, and they're not going to say a word until they can no longer hold it in and they erupt, right? And when a blue is erupting, you want to run as fast as you can, because blues remember things that were years ago of past mistakes or hurts, and they have a very smart and cutting tongue, and they can cut you right to your heart, because they're saying, look, I try to not do this, but you're not listening, or you're not paying attention, or you're really damaging, and so they just explode in that, right? So they try to bury as much as they can before that happens. So here's the thing. Their desired solution is different, right? You would think, I just want peace, and they do. But for blues, let me think this through on my own first. Blues are verbal processors. Yes, they sometimes do that, but maybe they're processing on their own, like, okay, I don't necessarily need to bury that, or I need to come back. So sometimes blues will come back a week later, and they'll say, hey, you said that last week? That really made me feel bad, and they would share that. And the other colors are like, wait, I don't even remember that conversation. And that's because blues are processing it to keep the peace in that. So an internal conflict that blues have is feeling artificial. They have to smile when they're not really happy. That's an internal conflict that blues really struggle with, because they genuinely want to share their emotions or their feelings or whatever with other people, good, bad, or anything like that. So when they don't, and they have to put on a smile or fake it, that's an internal conflict. Their biggest fear is losing a relationship. So sometimes they won't say anything because they're afraid that it might hurt that other person, and that relationship might be lost, and it was their fault. Oh, that eats up a blue. It just eats them up. They control by manipulation through guilt. If you really loved me, you would do this. Man, I thought you were my friend. That's how an unhealthy blue controls by, is through guilt. And it's always trying to reinforce that relationship, because that's the most important thing to them. The problem is not a lot of the other colors think the relationship is the most important. And so blues are validated by acceptance. They just want to be accepted of others, and they want others to accept them, because they naturally think the other people are good and genuine in that. So we always have a biblical character that we want you to kind of attach yourself to for further study. Now, it's not perfect. The Bible wasn't designed for personality colors and all that. We've just noticed that certain biblical characters really emphasize these personality colors. So for a blue, what we want you to do is do a self-study on the character of Abraham. Abraham was a very strong blue. He was known for his faith, and he was known for trusting in God, okay? So his relationships with his wife, all right, was very important. His father-in-law, his father, and even his only son. God didn't ask anyone else, all right, to sacrifice their only son, but he did ask that to Abraham to show, Do you care for me more than even your personality color, more than even anything in this world? God is asking Abraham, are you willing to do that? Now, luckily, God provided a substitute, so Abraham didn't have to do that. But Abraham was faithful, and he was willing to do that. So Abraham was known for being peaceable and kind of bringing in peace. He was known to be reliable and trustworthy with his family. And he was known to be passive, which means he wasn't aggressive just for the sake of aggressiveness. There was times where he stood up and times he went to war and all that. But really, he was there to being known for his faith and his connection and trust with God. So his top spiritual desire, Abraham's, but also Blues in general, you love. Your top spiritual desire is love. In focusing on how to love God and love others, that's something that you actually are naturally good at and could teach and show others to do that as well. On the opposite side, because every color has both a spiritual desire and a top spiritual weakness, is you do bring some drama to the situation. I'm sorry, you just do. Blues are so wanting validating relationships, they're constantly asking, hey, are you okay? What do you think? Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? Oh, let's go talk. Oh, I can't believe they said that. And you're kind of, dealing with the drama. And so you kind of add to that just because genuinely you're trying to fix it. So just be careful with that love versus drama aspect of top spiritual desire and top spiritual weakness. Those are Blues. We love you, Blues, in that, and all 4 personality colors are needed for the church and really any organization. And Blues are the connectors. They connect the other colors together and are crucial aspects to ministry and just teams in general. So thank you, Blues, for all that you do. We'll see you next time on the training tracks.